Good morning. Good morning, church. I'm at my favorite place with my favorite people at my favorite time, and we're going to do my favorite thing. So it's a good thing you're here. Last time we talked about the setting, and we're going to talk about my favorite person, the story of Ruth. And the story of Ruth, one of the reasons we love it is because it's a great story. So here we go. We're going to start off with setting today. Last time was background, and I think there's a recording out there somewhere. Where's it at, y'all? Where's the recording at? Facebook. Okay. And so just set your minds. Just make a decision right now. You are right here, right now. Whatever's going to happen later is going to happen later. What's ever happening outside of these walls is happening outside of these walls. And if you refer to your digital device, only refer to it if you're reading the Bible. Just make the decision right now. I'm only going to use my phone if I'm going to look at the Bible. Resist the siren's song calling you to Facebook, calling you to check your messages. Just resist it right now and stay with me. Stay present. Stay physically present, mentally present, emotionally present. Whatever's tugging at your emotions, it'll keep. Right now, I want you to trust that you're at the right place at the right time for the right reason. I want you to believe that you're here, and as we study the Word, your life will be transformed. My life will be transformed. The Word of God has the power to change how we think, how we see life, how we interpret life. So make that decision to be available for the Word to work on your life, much like we marinate meat. It's like that, okay? So we're just going to bask in your Word today, Father. We're going to marinate in your Word. We're going to sit in your presence. We open our ears to hear your voice. We open our eyes to see your face. Make our hearts tender to your leading, to your guiding today, this moment right now. Help us pay attention. Help us focus, Father. In Jesus' precious and holy name, amen. Okay, let's start off with setting. So the setting is, this is the physical geography, and those are the Old Testament names. So if this was current, we'd be seeing Jordan and Syria, and we'd be seeing Tel Aviv and all of that. But this blue part over here is the Mediterranean Sea, and this is the Dead Sea, and up there is the Sea of Galilee, and then the blue line in between is the Jordan. And so this is what it looks like. This is the map. Remember that song, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? This is where we are, right here, right now. And then this is the time of the judges. You know what happened in the time of the judges? Everybody did what was right in their own eyes. It was chaos, anarchy, disorder. It was the wild, wild west, and there was no sheriff in town. And then it was an agrarian society. That means it's a subsistence society. They're barely getting along. They're dependent on the rain. And if the rain happens, we thank the rain gods. And if the rain doesn't happen, we must have done something wrong. It's land ownership. Remember, it's a patriarchal society where I think we need to move this over a little bit. Can someone help me move this over just a little bit this way so I can stand right there? So it's a land ownership society. It's a tribal, thank you, sir, tribal society. Remember, the patriarch is the legal system. The patriarch is the law and the order. And then, of course, their religion. Their neighbors have lots of gods. And there's hierarchy of gods. There's the high-level gods that are in charge of national stuff. And then there's medium gods, and then there's lower gods. There's a hierarchy of gods. And the ordinary folks, they don't have access to the highfalutin gods. The highfalutin gods don't have time for the ordinary folks. So the ordinary folks have household gods. So everybody has their gods, and they pray to their gods for everything that comes up in life. Just cover all their bases. Pray to this God for this issue. Pray to this God for that issue. So this is a polytheistic society. And then, of course, all kinds of ethnic groups. Remember, we do not like the Moabites because everyone knows they came from incestual relationships. Ugh. Woof. And then they wouldn't give us bread and water when we were walking through the land, remember? And then those Moabite women came and seduced our good Jewish boys right when we were about to walk into the promised land. They're not to be trusted. In fact, they hired a prophet, Balaam, to curse us. And we don't like the Moabites. The Moabites are bad. The Moabites are other. We're us and they are other. And we have nothing to do with them. In fact, we have it codified in our legal system. In Deuteronomy, it says, even if you are a descendant of a Moabite from the 10th generation, you can't enter into the assembly of God. It's in Deuteronomy. It's codified. Our disdain for the Moabites is codified into law. It's illegal for a Moabite to come into the assembly of God to the 10th generation. Yikes, that's intense. That's intense dislike. So now we got the characters. We went over those last time. Elimelech. That means God is king. And he married a woman called Pleasant. Her name is Naomi, Pleasant. And they have 2 sons with the unfortunate names of sickness and disease. Now, these are foreshadowing. This is a story. They're the storyteller, the author, is foreshadowing what's going to happen with the names of these boys. And then, of course, another character is Boaz. Boaz means strength. Remember that one of the pillars in Solomon's temple is called Boaz, which means strength. Ruth means friendship, loyal friendship, and Bethlehem is house of bread. This is irony. Irony, like sarcasm, like like what is that sound of that papach? That kind of like the joke is papach when something funny happens. This is irony. In the house of bread, there is famine. Oh no! Remember, it's an agrarian society. It's a subsistence society. If it doesn't rain this year, we can't go to HEB. If it doesn't rain this year, that means that maybe we'll make it through 1 year. If it doesn't rain next year, we got to eat the seed. If it doesn't rain the 3rd year, we're facing the cold, hard reality of famine. So God is king, and his beautiful wife, Pleasant, leave with sickness and destruction, and they go to Moab. It's desperate times when you leave the house of bread and go live with those despicable Moabites in the land of your enemies. Well, they go to Moab, and they live there as sojourners, as foreigners. And remember, foreigners is kind of like a little bit of a slur, because they have no bloodlines to their land. If you don't have bloodlines to the land, you're nobody, you're nothing. But somehow Elimelech makes it, they're surviving. And then tragedy hits. And Elimelech dies. No warning, no newsflash. Hey, he's about to die. Nothing. He just ups and dies. Just tragedy hits Pleasant. But good thing is, Naomi still has 2 sons. You have 2 sons, you have savings in the bank. You have 2 sons, you have a 401k plan. And so these 2 boys grow up, and they're surviving. We don't know how, but they're making it. About 10 years or so, they marry 2 good girls. Moabite girls, Oh, well, but they're good girls, they're good looking. And so they marry Orpah? Not Oprah. Oprah and Ruth. And then one by one, the boys die. Probably from sickness and probably from destruction. And now we got not one widow with a 401k plan and savings in the bank and maybe a couple of properties back there she can get rent from. No, not just one widow. We have 3 widows in a patriarchal society, which means it's like being in the middle of Houston with no car. You just can't get around without your main patriarch, doing stuff for you, protecting you legally, economically, financially, protecting you physically, your physical safety. So talk about being up a creek without a paddle. So then we're ready to start Act 1. They travel to Moab, there's tragedy, and now Naomi says, okay, look, I'm not going to make it in Moab. This is bad. Let's go home. At least I know somebody there. So she and her 2 daughters-in-law, they start walking to Bethlehem. It's about 100 miles, I guess, more or less, depending on where they went in Moab. And this is dangerous business. I mean, it's pretty dangerous for a woman to travel alone nowadays, but for women to travel alone at that time, it's super duper dangerous. It's a risk. They're traveling home, traveling back to Bethlehem for Naomi, traveling back. And then maybe at the end of the day, Naomi says, what am I thinking? I have nothing to offer you 2 girls. Go home. Go back home to the house of your mother. Now, the house of your mother means there's some level of protection. Maybe she can arrange a marriage. Maybe she can find someone that really needs a wife, and at least you'll have a roof over your head. Go home to the roof of your mother. And they cry. These 3 women cry and weep and hold on to each other because they are their only friends in the world. I have no one else in the world but you. They're their only friends in the world. And they say, no, we can't leave you. We can't leave you, Naomi. We're with you. We're going to go with you. And Naomi says, look, and they're crying, and she says, look, do I have any sons in my womb? Even if I get married today and get pregnant tonight, are you going to wait for the baby to grow up and then marry you and take care of you? It's funny. This is using, an extreme, like a hyperbole. They're laughing and crying. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, you're right. And so they kiss between tears, and Orpah turns away and goes back home to her home, to where she knows, at least she can speak the language. And so the last thing we see of Orpah is the back of her neck, which is what her name means. Her name means nape, the back of her neck. And so last time we see her. But Ruth says, moi. This is where we have the most beautiful poem in the Bible, in all of literature, I think. Naomi says, go, return to your mother's house. The Lord I'm going to pause before I read Ruth's poem. She said, the Lord deal kindly with you as you have dealt with the dead and with me. The Lord may grant that you may find rest, each in the house of her husband. So she's praying a blessing over them. This is a blessing, Naomi. I have kindly highlighted because that's in the Hebrew. The word is, I want you to remember this word. This is a takeaway. This is a take the notes moment. Hesed. Hesed. Yeah, I think if we speak Hebrew, you got to do a little bit of spit there. Chesed. And it means mercy. It means compassion. It means love, grace, faithfulness. It's this kind of action on behalf of someone in need. It means loyalty. Now, the reason this is an important word is because it keeps showing up in the book of Ruth. And this is the word that the Hebrew authors use to describe God. Why are we studying the book of Ruth? We are going to get a message about God. We're going to get, hey, this is what God is like. Now, God is so big and so great and so powerful that you can't just see him in one picture or in just one song or in just one puppet skit or in just one flannel graphs Bible story or in just one little video. We got to see God. God is so big and so great and so grand that he shows up. He tells us, hey, this is what I'm like. And he tells us in so many ways. He tells us in the sunrise, in the sunsets, in the flowers, in the spring, in the fall, in music, in wedding scenes, in love stories, in relationships. And if you keep your eyes open, you're going to find God. So let's think about God's love as chesed. Now, we've seen this word before when God lavishes his chesed to 1,000 generations. You know that scripture. And then when Moses intercedes for the people, remember when God says, move over, Moses, I'm going to squash these people like a bug. And Moses says, no, he appeals to God's chesed. He says, God, your unfailing and magnificent love. Chesed motivates someone who has power to help someone who has no power or less power. Hesed is that amazing grace. Hesed is that commitment, that family love in action. That's what Hesed is. Okay, so Naomi calls a blessing on Ruth and says Hesed, uses that word Hesed. And then Ruth says, oh, here it is. This is the most beautiful poem in the whole wide world. Entreat me not to leave you or turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. And where I die. Now, we got to pause right here. In this time in history, 3,000 years ago, where you die really, really matters. Because, you got to die at the right place and get buried at the right place because there's where all your ancestors are. And you remember where they carried the bones of Joseph out of Egypt and they took them with him, when the people left Israel? When the people of Israel left Egypt. And remember Joseph, they said they carried the bones of Joseph with them. It really matters where you're buried in this culture, in this time. So when Ruth says, where you die, I will die. This is a to-the-bone commitment to Naomi's family. Not to Ruth's family, but to Naomi's family. And there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me. Now, normally we sing this in weddings, and because that's our strongest vow that we can relate to in today's society. But this is a vow between a daughter-in-law to a mother-in-law, a Moabite woman to the family of her deceased husband. No guarantees. Naomi can't protect her, can't provide for her, can't feed her. And yet there's this loyalty. That's Hesed. So Ruth and Naomi continued traveling to the house of bread, and they arrive in Bethlehem during the barley harvest around March and April. And then the townswomen say, there's only about 100, 200 people in Bethlehem, small town. The women say, is that Naomi? Looks like Naomi. She walks like Naomi. That's not Naomi. She's old. Am I that old? Do I look like that? It is Naomi. And they rush to her and say, Naomi, you're back. Naomi, Naomi. And Naomi says, don't call me pleasant. Call me bitter. Call me Mara. For the Lord has dealt harshly and bitterly with me. I've got to do a little caveat right here. during the whole book of Ruth, God never speaks. There's no, thus saith the Lord. It's the characters. Remember the characters? And it's mostly Naomi, Ruth, and Boaz, and then some other folks. But God never speaks. That's just an aside. I want you to notice what's happening in this story. God doesn't speak. But yet, Naomi is saying, God has dealt bitterly with me. Call me Mara. Remember that Mara, the bitter waters, when they were looking for water in the desert and the water was bitter? That used the word Mara, bitter waters. And this is when we, the readers of the story, the watchers of the movies, want to say, no, Naomi. Have you ever yelled at the people on the TV screen? Sometimes I just have to pray for them in my morning prayers. Oh, Lord, help that girl. And so we yell at Naomi and say, no, Naomi, no, don't quit yet. This is only chapter 1. Chapter 4 is coming. Your story isn't over yet. My story isn't over yet. The fat lady hasn't sung. The baseball game isn't over yet. We're playing 9-inning games. And if I'm not winning by the end of the 9th inning, I'm playing 10 innings. And if I don't win this game, I'm playing a double header. We play till we win. That's what we want to yell at Naomi. Don't give up yet, Naomi. So then, wait a minute. Call me bitter. So then they get there, and, they're there. And they got to eat. What do you do? Wait, really, think about it. Have you ever gone camping and you show up to the campsite, and you want to eat? There's something about being outside, and the stream, and the lake, and the mosquitoes. You just want to eat. So what do? You pull out your Yeti, and there's food in the Yeti, right? You pull out you have food. You bring it with you. Because why? Because we live in the land of abundance. We live in the land of plenty. We got plenty. But they arrive after walking. I don't know how long it takes them to walk from Moab to Bethlehem. And they get there, and there is nothing to eat. What are they going to eat? So Ruth says, okay, look, what if I go gleaning? Let me go glean. So remember, the Social Security system in this society it's an agrarian society, right? So when it's barley harvest time, the guys that are reaping, they're not supposed to pick up everything. They're supposed to be messy harvesters and drop stuff. And if they go through it once, they're not supposed to go through it twice. If they shake the olive branches once, they're not supposed to shake it twice. They're supposed to leave the leftovers for who? The widow, the orphan, the poor, and the foreigners. That was God's idea. So Ruth says, okay, let me go do that. And so she does. She goes and works in the fields. The fields are outside of town. This is risky business just for a woman to leave town and to walk out in the fields. It's risky business for me to drive home at night in the country roads here on this side of the world through the forest, especially if it's raining and trees are falling out of the ground. It's risky business for Ruth to walk to the fields. She does. She asked permission to glean. The foreman says, okay. And she starts working. And then Boaz arrives from town. He comes to his fields from town, and he notices, he greets his foreman. God bless you. God bless you. Who's that girl? And the foreman says, that's the Moabitess. Who? The Moabitess. Do you remember Lawrence Welk when he used to say, and now our Spanish little girl? Remember Lawrence Welk saying, and now our Spanish girl's going to sing this? Okay, this is the Moabite girl. She's been here since the morning. She's been picking. She's been gleaning. She hasn't stopped except once to take a break. And Boaz says, okay, hands off. Nobody touch her. he's got to tell the guys, don't touch her. Don't even look at her. Okay? That's what my mom used to do. I'm not going to tell you that story because I don't have enough time. So then, and then at lunchtime, he goes and talks to Ruth and says, you can stay here. Don't go to the other field. Stay here. I've told everybody else to leave you alone. There's water through the water jugs over there. There's water, pickle shots over there, just in case you get dehydrated. Everything you need right here. And then at lunchtime, he asked her to come and eat with them. And he said, dip your bread right here in they said vinegar, but I imagine it's kind of like gravy. Dip your bread here in the gravy and eat. And then he packed her up some leftovers to take home to Naomi. And he said, come back. Only work here. Don't go to any other place to work. That's called job security. I got a job. So that's what she does. They talk. He gives her lunch. He gives her water. He gives her shelter from the heat, physical safety. And she asks him, why? Why are you doing this? And Boaz says, it has been fully reported to me. All that you have done for your mother-in-law since the death of your husband, and how you have left your father and mother and the land of your birth, and have come to a people whom you did not know before. The Lord repay your work, and a full reward be given to you by the Lord God of Israel, under whose wings you have come for refuge. I don't think Moab read that Deuteronomy law that said you're not supposed to hang out with the Moabites. He's asking God to bless this Moabite woman. And not only bless her, he is being the blessing. He is being the vehicle to bless her. Wings, that is a metaphor. God is not a bird. This is a metaphor. This is a literary device. Where else have we seen wings? Psalms, keep me in the apple of your eye. Hide me under the shadow of your wings. How precious is your loving kindness, O God. Therefore the children of men put their trust under the shadow of your wings. Be merciful to me, O God. Be merciful, for my soul trusts in you. And in the shadow of your wings, I will make my refuge. Wings. Keep that in mind. It's a metaphor. It means safety, security, reliability. It describes God's chesed. So Ruth goes home loaded. She's loaded with leftover food from lunch, with all the barley that all the harvesters left out there for her to pick up like Easter eggs. And she gets home and tells Naomi everything. And Naomi says, may the Lord bless him. She's blessing Boaz. He is showing his kindness. Boaz is showing his kindness, hesed, to us as well as to your dead husband. They're honoring the dead. This is their culture. A blessing. Hesed shows up again. Remember Hesed. Hesed describes the God that you and I serve, the God that you and I have pledged our allegiance to. So, it's time, this has gone on. Now it's wheat. Now it's the wheat harvest. Now it's about June, so some time has elapsed. There's plenty of food. They have so much grain they can eat. They can go into the grain business. They're starting to sell grain now. Things are looking good. They got some new clothes. It's going good. So Naomi says, look, I got to look for your security. I got to look for your well-being. This is what we're going to do. Tonight is a winnowing business. You're going to go, and she tells her the plan. Take a bath. Put on a nice dress. Put on some perfume. The wilds known to all women. So Ruth gets all gussied up, and she goes to the threshing floor. And remember, part of the plan was let Boaz eat and drink and his heart be merry. Okay, we know what that means. Show. Oh, gosh, please, please don't let it be naughty. Please, we're hoping that this is be a wholesome movie that we can just enjoy without it being tainted with things of the flesh. But Naomi had told her, don't make yourself known to him. If you read it carefully, it says, Naomi says to Ruth, this is the plan. Don't make yourself known to him. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's a euphemism. Euphemism is a nice way to say something else. It's like kick the bucket. That's a euphemism. It means you died. So don't let yourself be known to him is a euphemism that means keep your clothes on. That's another euphemism. So then Ruth and Boaz talk. And she's telling him, I'm available for marriage. I'm done mourning. I'm available for marriage. Ruth, I am Ruth, your maidservant. Take your maidservant under your wing, for you are a close relative. Close relative is kinsman redeemer. You're the next man in charge. You're in line to get the land and everything that comes with the land. And guess who comes with the land that belongs to Elimelech? Me. You're the next one in charge. And this is what Boaz says. Blessed are you of the Lord, my daughter, for you have shown more kindness, hesed. Remember, this is a picture of God's love. You have shown more kindness at the end than at the beginning, in that you did not go after young men, whether rich or poor. You know, Ruth is good looking. She could have anyone she wants. It doesn't take much. You know, it doesn't take much. And you gotta meet them out of your hands. We know how to do this, ladies. Doesn't take much. She could have had anybody. But she didn't. She kept herself pure. She kept herself loyal to her integrity, which was to be loyal to Naomi, to be loyal to Naomi's family, to be loyal to her husband, her dead husband, and his lineage. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you request, for all the people in my town know. We all know. Notice, he doesn't say, we all know you're a Moabitess and that we're not supposed to hang out with you for 10 generations. No, he doesn't say that. He says, we all know that you are a virtuous woman. Oh, golly gee. So now here's a plan. He gives her a plan, and then he gives her provisions. She never leaves his presence without plenty. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we never leave the Lord's presence without plenty. Plenty for right now and take home leftovers, and then plenty to take home with us to maybe start a business, to maybe have enough for tomorrow. So here's the plan. Yeah, right. I am the kinsman redeemer. However, there's someone else. So stay tonight, because it's nighttime. There's coyotes out there. Stay in the morning before it's daylight. It shall be that he will perform the duty of the close relative for you. Good, let him do it. But if he does not, then, I will. Lie down until morning. So she laid at his feet until morning, and then he wakes her up before daylight and says, get out, hurry, go. And here, take the shawl, and I'll give you some food. So at the gate the next morning, she goes